You don't want to admit it, but every time you felt the urge, every time your body trembled with a desire you couldn't explain, there was something more than just lust. There was a spark. Not for a person necessarily, but for something you haven't yet created. You were never just horny. You were ready to make something. But no one told you this. They only warned you about sin, about control, about shame. They never taught you how to use it. They never told you that this urge, the one that makes you ache when you're alone at night, is the same energy that fuels Beethoven's symphonies, Van Gogh's madness, Tesla's visions, and Michelangelo's divine obsessions. You think you're wasting time scrolling through Instagram, but you're actually starving for beauty. Starving for your own creation. Because deep inside, something wild wants out. And the force that could unleash it is the same one you've been told to suppress. Welcome to the truth no one dares to say out loud. Your sexual energy is your creative genius. And the world you could build with it would terrify even you. Look at your hands. They don't just touch, they shape. You were born with the capacity to build, to write, to dance, to speak visions into existence. But before you built anything, before you spoke, or even walked, your body knew desire. Desire to be held, to be fed, to be touched. That primal hunger was your first fire. This is where all creation begins. Not in the intellect, not in discipline, but in desire. Creation, in its rawest form, is erotic. Not just sexual, but sensual. To create is to take what is inside you, vague, chaotic, burning, and push it out into form. To give birth. And that process, whether it's a child, a painting, a business, or a symphony, is driven by the exact same current, libido. Jung didn't define libido as just sex. He saw it as the psychic energy of life itself. It's the river beneath your ambitions, your fantasies, your art, your rage, your beauty. And it all begins in that unspeakable desire you feel when no one's watching. So no. Your urges aren't distractions. They are clues. Messages. Cries from the part of you that still remembers you were born to make something real. But here's the tragedy. You were taught to run from it. To label your fire as filthy. To think you had to kill your desire to be spiritual, disciplined, or successful. And so now, you wonder why your life feels numb. Why your work feels mechanical. Why your dreams keep dying before they even begin. It's because you've never been taught how to transmute the very energy that was meant to make you a god. And until you learn to do that, until you face your sexual energy not as temptation, but as the source of your genius, you will stay stuck. Trapped in shallow work, mediocre art, and relationships that don't move your soul. But once you learn how to feel that energy, hold it, redirect it, create with it, you will become what you were always meant to be. A living artist. A channel for beauty. A builder of realities. Not despite your desires, but because of them. There comes a moment when you feel it rising inside you. That quiet storm in your chest, in your gut, in your loins. And it's not just arousal. It's not just wanting someone's body. It's deeper. It's the ache to become something you're not yet. The ache to express, not just to consume. To create, not just to climax. But you've been trained to spend that energy the easy way. To let it out in a scroll, in a swipe, in a silent moment under the covers. And every time you do, something sacred leaks out of you. Not just semen. Not just tension. But potential. Freud called it sublimation, the act of channeling sexual desire into higher creative expressions. It's how the artist paints instead of sleeps. How the writer stays up at 3 a.m. scribbling pages while his whole body screams for touch. How the inventor buries himself in machines, chasing ecstasy not in a body, but in a vision. And you? You've felt this too. That moment when a craving hits you hard. But instead of giving in, you stay with it. You breathe. You hold it like a wild animal. And then suddenly, a thought arrives. A line. A beat. A design. A sudden idea that didn't exist before you chose not to waste that fire. That's sublimation. That's alchemy. But here's what nobody tells you. Sublimation isn't repression. You don't kill your desire. You harness it. You don't run from the erotic. You ride it into something divine. Because the truth is, the most powerful works of art in human history were lust transformed. Michelangelo didn't just sculpt David. He sculpted his obsession with the male form. Botticelli didn't just paint Venus. He painted his own longing for the unreachable feminine. Kafka didn't just write. He bled his shame, his repression, his twisted dreams into words that cut through time. And yet you sit here, believing your desires make you weak. That they distract you. That they're wrong. But maybe, just maybe, they are the engine of your greatness. What you're really afraid of isn't lust. You're afraid of what you could build if you stopped wasting it. If you stopped numbing it. If you kept it inside, let it grow, let it burn through you, until it birthed something you didn't know you were capable of. That's the path of the artist. The mystic. The visionary. Not someone who lives without desire, but someone who takes desire and sculpts eternity with it. There's a reason the most gifted creators often break. Why the artist drinks. Why the poet cries alone. Why the genius isolates himself until the very thing he was building becomes a tomb. It's because creating from desire is dangerous. It forces you to face everything you've buried. You don't just draw lines on a canvas. You draw out your lust, your guilt, your forbidden longing for what you're not supposed to want. You don't just write a story. You write your hunger, your rage, your helpless need to touch something real. To be an artist of any kind is to open yourself up to war. Not just with the world, but with the shadow inside you. That part of you that wants to scream instead of stay polite. The part of you that fantasizes in the dark. The part of you that doesn't fit into society's neat little categories. The beast behind your eyes. The ache in your chest when someone says, "Be good." You try to be good. You try to be pure. But the truth is, your genius doesn't live in purity. It lives in your contradiction. It lives where desire meets discipline. Where madness meets beauty. Where love meets obsession. This is why artists are tormented. Because they live too close to the raw fire of life. Most people run from that fire. They drink it away. They numb it with porn, with entertainment, with comfort. But not you. If you choose this path, this life of creative transmutation, you walk toward the fire. You let it burn through you. You let it change you. And it hurts. Because you'll see things others won't. Feel things more deeply. Dream in colors most people have never even named. But in that pain, in that edge, in that intimate dance with chaos, you will create something real. And that's why it's worth it. That's why the torment matters. Because through it, you become the mirror others are too afraid to look into. So when your sexual energy stirs, and you feel shame, or guilt, or confusion, pause. Because beneath that discomfort is your calling. Not to give in. Not to run. But to feel it fully. To let it tear you open just enough. So that beauty can leak out through the cracks. She comes to you in the quiet. Not always as a woman. Sometimes as a flicker. A scent. A single line that haunts you. A shape that doesn't make sense but won't leave your mind. She is the muse, and she arrives when your soul is finally open enough to receive her. But what opens you is not peace. It's not logic. It's not control. It's madness. Desire. Longing so intense it shakes you. You think inspiration is clean? It isn't. It's messy. It doesn't visit the people who play it safe. It descends upon the ones who dare to lose control. That moment when you stare into the blank page, the canvas, the void, and feel something inside you wanting to be born? That's her. That's the muse whispering through your veins, through your blood, through your loins. You can't force her to arrive. But you can become the kind of person she visits. And that kind of person is willing to suffer, to feel everything, to stay awake when others numb out. When others escape through mindless pleasure, you stay with the ache. You let it swell. You let it rip you open. And then, a flash, a phrase, a brushstroke, a melody, a business idea at 2 a.m. that feels like a transmission from God Himself. You didn't invent it. You received it. Because you were charged enough, erotically alive enough, to hold it. Most men never feel this. They're drained, desensitized, flatlined by a world that tells them pleasure must always be released. Never transformed. But you're learning the secret. That your lust is not just for bodies. It's for beauty. It's for truth. It's for the infinite. The muse does not come to those who are empty. She comes to those who are full. Full of longing, tension, desire too big for the body to hold. So you turn it into something else. You sing it. You write it. You build it. You live it. And suddenly your madness becomes your masterpiece. You live in a world that numbs you. Not with knives, but with screens. Not with prisons, but with comfort. Not with silence, but with noise. You're surrounded by dopamine, drowning in options, but starving for something real. And it's not your fault. You were raised in a system that profits from your exhaustion, from your scrolling, from your loneliness. Porn is always available. But true intimacy? Hidden behind walls of fear. Video games reward you instantly. But real creation? Demands pain, discipline, and waiting. Instagram shows you someone else's art, body, life. But your own inner world? It's buried under layers of mental junk you never asked for. And so you forget how to imagine. You forget what it's like to sit in stillness, with a fire growing inside you. You don't feel your sexual energy as a source of genius anymore. You feel it as frustration, as guilt, as something to deal with instead of partner with. You wonder why your creativity is blocked, why your words don't land, why your designs feel empty, why you keep starting things and never finishing them. It's because the energy that was meant to build empires is being leaked out night after night, pixel by pixel. This is not about morality. This is about power. Your power. Every time you numb a desire instead of transforming it, you kill a future you that could have existed. Not just a version of you that's richer or more disciplined, but a version of you that dreams differently, that feels differently, that creates art so real, it moves the soul of another person. Do you know what a miracle that is? To take something buried in your lust, your shadow, your ache, and shape it into a form so beautiful, it liberates someone else? That's what dies when your imagination dies. That's what the world loses when you trade your erotic fire for a moment of escape. But it's not too late. Because if you're hearing these words, it means part of you is still awake, still hungry, still remembering that there's something more. Not out there. In you. Not something you have to find, but something you must uncover and reclaim. Your sexual energy is not the problem. Your numbness is. And once you feel again, once you let that hunger live in you without releasing it too soon, your imagination will come roaring back to life. And with it, a new kind of creation, a new kind of self, a new world. You've been told that withholding is weakness, that abstinence is for monks, for priests, for the lost and lonely. But what if that's a lie? What if the most potent men in history didn't withhold out of fear, but out of reverence? There's a power in restraint that our culture has forgotten. Because restraint isn't repression. It's containment. You don't stop eating because food is bad. You fast to deepen your hunger, to heighten your senses, to remember the sacred. The same is true for your sexual energy. When you choose celibacy, not from shame, but from sovereignty, you're making a declaration to the universe. Creative celibacy isn't about denying your nature. It's about redirecting it. It's about realizing that every drop you withhold becomes pressure. And pressure, when not suppressed, becomes expression. That intensity in your body? That ache you carry for closeness, for climax, for connection? It doesn't go away. It builds. It concentrates. And then it erupts, not in a bedroom, but in your art, your work, your vision. This is why the mystics fasted. Why the prophets wandered. Why the greatest creators disappeared into silence for months, even years. Not because they hated the world, but because they knew they needed to gather their fire. They knew that spilling it too soon would weaken the transmission. But if they waited, if they held it, if they guarded their energy like a sacred flame, then what came out of them could change the course of history. This is what you are capable of. If only you choose to withhold. Not forever. Not in punishment. But for the sake of becoming something rarer than pleasure. For the sake of power. Because every time you choose not to release, you rise. You ascend. You alchemize. Creative celibacy is not a curse. It is a throne. And if you can sit in that fire long enough, you'll discover that the world bends around those who do not bend to their impulses. You will become unshakable. Not because you are numb, but because you are charged. And when the time comes to release, you won't just spill it into a screen. You'll pour it into something eternal. Every great creator has a secret. Not one they talk about at interviews or put in their bios, but one that pulses underneath everything they make. They were sexually charged. Erotically alive. Tuned into something ancient primal. A current that didn't just want to take, but to shape. Look closely at the giants of art, science, business. Picasso, Tesla, Da Vinci, Jung, even Steve Jobs. They may not have called it sexual energy, but it lived in their obsession, in the way they fixated, in their relentless hunger to touch the edges of the possible. See, sexual energy isn't just about the bedroom. It's about creation. It's about penetration. The ability to drive an idea so deeply into the world that it leaves a permanent mark. This energy doesn't discriminate. It can be destructive if you don't direct it. But if you channel it, if you aim it, it becomes the engine behind your genius. Most men feel arousal and think only of climax. But the genius sees arousal as a portal. A gateway to states of mind other people never reach. Arousal heightens focus. It sharpens the senses. It opens doorways in the unconscious mind where visions live. Visions that can only be seen when your blood is hot, but your mind is clear. This is the erotic code of genius. To stand in the fire of your own desire, and use it to forge worlds. When Jung dove into the human psyche, when Tesla dreamed of invisible forces, when Da Vinci dissected the body to understand beauty, they weren't running from desire. They were consumed by it. But instead of releasing it, they wrote with it. They painted with it. They built with it. And so can you. But you must reclaim this power. Because modern life has robbed you of it. It's told you your arousal is dirty, shameful, something to hide. Or worse, something to spend like loose change on a flickering screen. But your sexual energy isn't a weakness. It's the code to your calling. The very software your creative soul runs on. You were never meant to waste it. You were meant to wield it. So feel it. Let it charge you. Let it stretch your imagination to its limits. And then, transmute. Build. Burn it into the world. Because history only remembers the ones who created with their whole being. Not just with their mind, but with their lust. With their ache. With their fire. There comes a moment. If you're brave enough to stop seeing sex as something merely biological. When the veil begins to lift, and you realize, sexual energy isn't just about pleasure. It's about presence. It's about God. You feel it when you're fully awake in your body. When your breath deepens. When your chest tightens in the presence of beauty. That is not just arousal. That is remembrance. Remembrance of your cosmic origin. Of a time before time. Of the source from which all life emerged. Because before creation was anything physical, it was energy. And the energy that forms galaxies is the same energy that pulses through your veins when you desire. This is why the mystics spoke of ecstasy. Why the tantrics practiced sacred union. Why the saints and sages often wrote in verses that sounded strangely erotic. They weren't confused. They were tuned in. They understood that at the deepest level, sexual energy is the language of the soul longing to reunite with the infinite. You've felt it before. That moment when desire becomes so overwhelming. You forget yourself. You dissolve. That's not lust. That's worship. Not worship of a person, or even of sex itself, but of the divine force that moves through you. And that force? It wants to bring you home. To yourself. to your highest creative power, to your deepest state of truth. When you stop treating your sexual urges like distractions and begin seeing them as sacred signals, everything changes. You start to understand that your longing isn't for sex. It's for wholeness. It's for reunion with the part of you that's been split, shamed, exiled. The masculine with the feminine. The flesh with the soul. The body with the beyond. And when you create from that place, when you speak, write, dance, build, lead from that union, you don't just make things. You transmit something eternal. People won't know why your words move them, why your presence stirs something ancient in their bones. But you'll know. Because you will have become a vessel for the divine, for the erotic intelligence of the cosmos itself. And that is why your sexual energy is holy. Not because it is pure, but because it is whole. It contains the darkness, the desire, the dirt, and the divinity, and weaves them into a single living current. You were never meant to fight this energy. You were meant to merge with it, to rise with it, to become something luminous through it. Because the body is not the opposite of the spirit. It is the doorway to it. You've felt the fire in your body, the restless hunger that won't be ignored. But desire, left without direction, is chaos. It burns bridges. It scatters energy into the wind. The real challenge isn't to feel your sexual energy. That's the easy part. The challenge is to build a life worthy of it. A life where your erotic power can flow freely. Not just in fleeting moments, but as a steady current that fuels your every action. Ask yourself, what kind of environment does your desire demand? What kind of people, projects, and habits honor your fire instead of draining it? You can't pour your energy into a cracked cup. You must craft your vessel carefully. That means discipline, ritual, sacrifice. It means cutting away what dulls your senses. Empty pleasures, toxic relationships, distractions that scatter your focus. It means choosing struggle over comfort. Because the fire that burns inside you thrives on challenge. It means turning your work, your art, your purpose into a temple. A sacred space where your desire can transform into creation. Because when you build a life worthy of your sexual energy, you tap into something greater than willpower. You tap into flow, into grace, into a current that carries you effortlessly towards your highest goals. You become the alchemist, taking base energy, raw desire, and turning it into gold. Not just for yourself, but for the world. And when that happens, your life becomes a magnet, attracting opportunities, people, and moments that reflect your power. You will know what it means to be alive, not as a vague feeling, but as a force, a presence that commands attention and respect. The alchemist's task is not easy. It asks you to face your shadows, your fears, your doubts, to wrestle with the parts of yourself you've tried to hide. But it also promises transformation, a rebirth, a becoming. You will not be the same man who first felt this fire burning inside him. You will be more, stronger, wiser, more whole. Feeling the fire is one thing. Mastering it is another. You need tools, practices, rituals, to take that raw energy and shape it so it serves you, not the other way around. Here are the keys. 1. Breathwork. Your breath is your anchor in the storm. When desire swells, don't fight it. Breathe deep. Slow down. Let your breath carry the energy deeper into your body, away from the urge to escape or release too soon. 2. Movement. Your body is the vessel of your power. Channel your energy through movement. Whether it's martial arts, dance, yoga, or simply walking in silence, movement transforms restless energy into grounded force. 3. Meditation and visualization. See your sexual energy as a bright light inside you. Visualize it rising from your lower body to your heart and head. Feel it fueling your mind and creativity. Meditate on this until it becomes real in your experience. 4. Journaling. Write down your urges, your fantasies, your fears. Don't judge. Just observe. This creates awareness and control instead of repression. 5. Sacred cold showers. They shock your system, reset your nervous system, and build discipline. Each moment of discomfort is a small victory over impulse. 6. Creative expression. Channel the energy directly into your work. Paint, write, design, build, compose, whatever your medium is. Let your desire fuel your creations. 7. Community and accountability. Find men who understand this path. Share your struggles and victories. This prevents isolation and strengthens your resolve. None of this is magic. It's practice. Daily commitment. Small acts of courage repeated until they become your nature. Master your sexual energy and you master yourself. You stop being a slave to fleeting pleasure. You become the architect of your destiny. You are no longer the man who blindly chases desire. You are the man who commands it. This transformation is not just about behavior. It's about identity. You are becoming a man who creates with fire, not from it. Who carries his sexual energy like a sword, not a burden. Who channels his lust into vision, his craving into discipline, his hunger into creation. This new identity rewires how you see yourself. It rewires how others see you. You become magnetic. Not because you seek attention, but because you hold your power quietly. You walk through the world with a calm intensity. A steady force that others can feel. This is the power of living in alignment, where your desires don't control you, but fuel your highest self. Every act becomes charged with meaning. Every choice becomes deliberate. Every moment, an opportunity to forge greatness. This is your legacy in the making. And the fire within you? It's no longer something to tame or hide. It's your greatest ally. You don't just live. You become. You become a creator. A builder. A man who wields his sexual energy as the most sacred force in his life. You've walked through fire. You've faced desire and turned it into power. Remember this. Your sexual energy is not a curse to hide, nor a weakness to fear. It's a sacred flame. The eternal fire that burns at your core. How you choose to carry it will shape your life, your work, and the legacy you leave behind. This fire is yours to command, to transform, to become. No matter where you are on this journey, whether you're just beginning to see this power, or already wielding it with precision, know that every moment is a chance to rise higher, to create deeper, to live fuller. This is your birthright, your gift. Let the flame inside you burn bright, and watch as your life ignites into something extraordinary. Thank you for stepping into this fire with me. Your journey has just begun.